Anna Kasparian, the Young Turks host or co-host, has recently showed up on Tucker Carlson, of all places, which you might find a bit surprising. How can somebody from the left show up on somebody on the right's podcast? But what unites them is, of course, one hatred of Israel, as you would expect, as well as this weird, I would almost call it really like anti-American sort of perspective of especially foreign policy, but in many cases I would even say domestic policy. So what unites left and right oftentimes is their collectivism, is their amount of populism, and this is how somebody like her can come together with Tucker Carlson. We'll go thankfully we won't watch the whole thing. We'll focus on the Israeli part because that's what we usually comment on, and I think a lot of different things were covered there that I think we can focus on, as well as things around America. So we'll be able to watch that. I have one early clip also. Welcome to the reality show. Joining me today are Jonathan Holnick and Michael Kaufman. Today's episode of the reality show is also sponsored by The Objectivist Guide to the Galaxy. Link to that is in the chat and in the description. More about them later in the show. So we could go to the clip, but I'll just go for a brief words if you have any. Jonathan, any
Yeah, off the cuff opinion, Daniel, is that, as Rand talked about, ideas are what move the culture. And more than even perhaps in the universities or in the classrooms or at home or on pulpits, it is these influencers, these podcast hosts who are spreading ideas, some good, some just absolutely atrocious. And that's why, of course, we're covering them here today.
Michael, any opening thoughts?
Echo what Jonathan says.
All right, let's do you want to add something?
No, really, I have nothing to
add. Okay, let's watch a clip. The first clip, this is from, I think, early in the show, about like 20 minutes in, where Anna was asked, she was talking about how people said she shouldn't talk to Tucker Carlson.
I take offense to people trying to police who I can talk to. In fact, the more they try to police me, the more I want to talk to the person they forbid me to speak to. Honestly, I've always been like that. I've been like that since I was a kid. My mom knows it better than anyone. I'm just a little bit rebellious, and I don't like to be told what to do. I hate it.
And what to think.
Yeah.
And who you can talk to. I mean, that's like that's a core decision. Who do I associate with?
Yeah.
Who are my friends? Who am I having dinner with? Who do I marry? I mean, if you allow other people to make those decisions for you, you're not free.
No, you're not. And
so the reason why I wanted to show this is this like weird childlike mentality, and I've seen it somewhere else. It's like, oh, people don't want me to talk to those people, so I'm gonna talk to those people. Like there is an actual good reason to like not talk to certain people, again, to give them moral sanction. Now, I know it's weird to say somebody like Anna Kasparian giving moral sanction to somebody else, but still, there is a certain amount of things that simply shouldn't be tolerated. And as somebody like her, somebody who is a progressive, somebody who should be sort of against what Tucker stands for, I would understand. But yeah, Jonathan, what do you make? What do you make of this kind of like mentality?
It's juvenile. I mean, it's obviously very juvenile. It's infantile. But Daniel, to your point about sanction, and Miss Rand wrote and talked a lot about sanction. I mean, if you got a call that said the leader of North Korea wants to have dinner with you, meet him at this hour at this location, would you go to that? Would you sanction that? Would you sit down with some of the people that Tucker and others, certainly the Young Turks, have sat down with? I certainly wouldn't break bread with them. So, don't underestimate what Rand talked about in terms of the importance of your own personal sanction of ideas or people with whom you do not want to associate.
Yeah, and you asked, would you eat dinner with him or would you break bread? Well, Tucker would. I mean, he had a conversation with Putin.
Yeah, of course he would.
He had a conversation with the Iranian president. So, I mean, Michael, what do you make of that?
No, I think it's what's amazing about Tucker Carlson, and I used to be actually fairly in sync with a lot of what he was before he completely went off the deep end, and maybe he was always off the deep end and kept it in check, is that he can sound like a fairly normal person. I mean, I agree with the statement that people telling you who you can and can't talk to are restricting your freedom. But her ridiculous comment that the reason she's talking to Tucker is because she's rebellious. And if someone tells her not to do something, it's what Jonathan said, she's just being juvenile. Someone tells me not to do something and I'm a kid, of course I want to do it. That's don't play with fire and I'm going to light a match because you said don't do it. Don't touch the stove because it's hot. Well, I better damn well find out it's hot myself. The other problem is this, and I always attribute a lot of the populist rise of this to Obama, this notion that all opinions are okay and sort of equal. And it's ridiculous. People, again, mistake, and it's the same mistake they love to make when they talk about equalization of opportunity versus equalizing everybody, right? Trying to provide a society where it's as open as possible so that people can advance based on their own merits and not based on religion, sex, creed, color, and all that other stuff. That's the goal. The goal is not to pretend that someone who's 7'2" and shoots basketballs really well is as good a basketball player as I am, and I'm a terrible basketball player. My point is that there's no equality at all of anybody's skills. We all have different skills. Some people have almost no skills, and some people have a lot of skills. And that's the problem with what's going on here. We have this ridiculous idea that if you have a mouth and it yaps words, that somehow it's all okay. We see it across all of our society now, and it's ridiculous. That's why you can have blue-haired people that have never had a job in their life, and I'm purposely being argumentative here, and people who criticize everything that they've done while on their iPhone using the technology that required decades of engineering, not to mention centuries of physics to understand, to blame the society which has created the situation where they're allowed to criticize it as if they contributed anything to it. And they're on the same footing as someone who has improved our lives. And that's ridiculous. But and we have to stop tolerating that. We, the normal people who hold jobs and just want to go do our jobs, contribute to society, take care of our families, et cetera. It's very simple. The people that have opinions that are living in la-la land, those opinions do not hold the same level as we do.
Yeah, and just to mention, just to cover something you mentioned earlier about Tucker used to be sort of better. Jonathan, I know you've been on the Fox for some time, but I remember, or at least, well, I don't remember. I was like maybe 5 when he was sort of like better. But I've seen some of his older clips, and I remember him sort of being sort of like a bit more, almost like a libertarian sort of like figure, especially on Fox. But yeah, after I think it was after the financial crisis that he became like straight up sort of anti-capitalist. I remember he had Cornel West on his show of all people, and when Cornel West explained to him what he means of what he considers of democratic socialism, Tucker Carlson was like, well, if that's what democratic socialism is, I'm basically on board. And the Cornel West talked about how it's about basically the companies having responsibility towards the people.
And Daniel, unfortunately, today, that's what's in. Economic ignorance is, for better or worse, in fashion these days. And the same thing with anti-Semitism, either explicit or implicit. It's very much seen as, I think, being rebellious, like Anna has said. She's just being a rebel. Everyone says, 6 million died. I say only 1 million died, or maybe 500,000 died. This idea of rebelling against, what you've been taught by your parents or your peers, your teachers, it's so run through so much of what both of them seem to espouse. It's just this wanting to, poke the bear. Why? Well, we know why, because they need to keep people listening. This is the name of the game. When you're a podcaster, when you're a media, wannabe or a media personality, you've got to keep poking that bear. So it's no surprise to me that, this is next on their list, and they'll get the eyeballs to boot.
Yeah, and actually, Tucker does make some point of that later in the show, if we'll have time to get there. But let's actually listen to what these guys have to say.
Politicians know it, but they do the opposite anyway. And I've been increasingly angry with the fact that, you know, I feel that the interests of Americans and how they feel about going to war with Iran, for instance, right? Most Americans do not want to go to war with Iran. And it didn't matter, okay? The United States bombed Iran's nuclear sites on behalf of Israel anyway, which could have led to a full-blown hot war. It didn't because of Iran having restraint, but we're not done yet. And
But
so
don't you feel ashamed that it didn't lead to nuclear war? This is the new line.
Okay, I wanted to keep it for a bit longer, but I can't. One, I'll just cover the lies. She actually says that. She says Americans didn't want war with Iran, and then she talks about strikes of Iran. So yeah, Americans don't want war with Iran. Americans don't want Iran to get nuclear weapons. And what happened was limited strikes on their nuclear capabilities, on the research on nuclear weapons. So this is actually something Americans want, and she's just clearly lying here. I'll take one more quote and I'll go to you, Jonathan. So again, either she talked on behalf of Israel, and then secondly, it's only thanks to restraint of Iran that World War didn't start. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's simply all wrong, but it's what's taught in college classrooms, and is seen as being common sense and moral amongst today's young intellectual wannabes. So it's just wrong from start to finish. And of course, Tucker offers no pushback as well at all.
Well, I mean, why would he push back? He essentially agrees with her, right? So, I mean, Michael, before the show, I think you mentioned specifically the restraint of Iran part. So, what do you make of that?
I mean, it's despicable what she said. That recasting this whole thing. I mean, this notion that most Americans don't want war with Iran. Well, first of all, when was her last check on that? Number two, what does it have to do with the fact that Iran was developing nuclear weapons? Three, it didn't acknowledge that for 10 days, Iran had the absolute crap beat out of it by Israel and had its Tehran and other air defenses completely neutralized. I mean, Israel and America flew around with impunity across all of Iranian airspace whenever they wanted to, with essentially minimal to no risk. I mean, the joke in Israel, and because the airspace was closed a lot of that time in Israel, was there were more flights to Tehran from Israel than there were in Israel from all other countries, because of how open, what a great job Israel had done. The idea, and what all this does is say that Iran has a legitimate nuclear program, and we, America and Israel, should not have done anything. That's the implication. And it goes back to this moral relativism, and that is, if enough people think it should be done, and that might include a few crazy theocrats who all want to martyr themselves, then that's okay. Just like Kim Jong-il in North Korea, he has nuclear weapons now because Jimmy Carter and George Bush and everybody and Bill Clinton did such a great job negotiating with North Korea, and it was Republicans and Democrats, mostly Democrats, but absolutely Republicans too, who allowed this, to the point where it's a deterrent now for anyone to do anything about it. And so you have this hermit kingdom, which Tucker Carlson supports, and this crazy woman probably supports in some way or another. And it just goes back to all this crap that we're learning. Capitalism bad, meritocracy bad, Israel bad, US bad. Anybody who's a slovenly piece of crap that has never contributed to the improvement of humanity, they're good. And even if they're not good, they're allowed to be the way they are and do whatever they want to do because, hey, everybody's opinion is kind of the same.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about sort of like America bad. There is this sort of informal group called Blame America First. Basically, the Americans who under everything, they find a way to blame America. But let's listen a bit more, because I want to try to go through as much as possible, but it's really bad. So let's see.
I know.
You are wrong. You're an idiot.
That's, by the way, that line is
How
stupid.
dare you worry about that?
Yeah, we're not. By the way, it's not over yet, and don't get too cocky. For the people making that point, don't get too cocky.
But why is it shameful to worry about a nuclear war or worry about a World War III? Why is that? It's being held up by the normal tiny brain people as, like, evidence that you're just a ridiculous person.
I'm sorry to jump in, but I have to just comment.
Sure.
Does Tucker understand that you can only have a nuclear war between two nuclear powers? I mean, the assumption is that Iran gets nuclear weapons and therefore we can have a nuclear war with them. And anybody with half a brain will believe him. Like, oh my God, we were on the cusp of a nuclear war. But you can't have a nuclear war unless both powers have nuclear weapons. Sorry to interrupt, but it's so foundationally ridiculous. It's absurd.
Yeah, I was actually about to stop there anyway, because again, like, notice this, like, nuclear war might happen. Somehow, it never happens from the enemy side. It's not Iran who was risking a nuclear war. It's not Russia who is risking a nuclear war. It's not North Korea or China who's risking a nuclear war. It's always the West defending itself that is causing the nuclear war. It's the West supplying Ukraine to be able to find a dictatorship that's risking a nuclear war. It's Israel defending its citizens, and America defending its citizens, that's risking a nuclear war. I mean, Jonathan, yeah, what do you make of this? I mean, this connects really well with the Blame America First crowd.
Yeah, it's a really good observation, Daniel. I mean, altruistic, and interestingly, from a political perspective, truly, as this interview is demonstrating, present on both sides of the aisle. You have people on both sides of the political spectrum here in the States now who say, we want peace, we want these wars to stop, and they're willing to do anything, sit down, make a treaty and truce with the absolute worst actors in the world in order to achieve exactly that peace. So it's not even a question about political party, even more political affiliation. It's just ideas. As Rand said, ideas move the world, and they're both are anti-West, certainly anti-Israel, and anti-America as well.
Let's listen a bit more.
Was wrong.
Right. Well, I mean,
we didn't have a nuclear war. Shut up.
Well, maybe those folks have a point. Maybe we're the baddies. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we should be more concerned about profits for, bomb makers and weapons manufacturers and private contractors and the mercenaries that are currently working over in Gaza to shoot and kill people as they're waiting for humanitarian aid.
So how does...
I just want to throw a quick comment on that. I'm not sure if you guys have to say, but again, this idea that, like, people are making money of, like, dropping bombs. Like, look into companies like Lockheed Martin or whoever you want, and look who owns them. The same people who own every single other industry. There is no, like, singular owner of, like, one specific industry that's benefiting. I mean, Jonathan, you're in finance. Maybe you know more. But
well, I mean, this is that same old, this is war just being, spurred on by the greedy globalists. Wink, wink. We all know who that is. And, just war for profit's sake. And every time there's been a conflict, at least in my lifetime, I've heard exactly the same thing. Supposedly the war in Iraq was for Halliburton. It was done on Halliburton's bequest. That was, what at the time was told by this, the same group of extreme leftists. And of course, it's just a quiet, subtle smear on capitalism, on the profit motive, on business, of which Tucker doesn't push back or question at all.
Yeah, and like I said, if you look into companies like, I just pulled up Lockheed Martin, it's owned by Vanguard, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, and they own everything else. Why wouldn't they want profits in, like, other fields? Why, like... Do people know that, like, war is not actually...
Let's be clear, Daniel, that and all of those places handle money from all of the usual citizens that invest money. I mean, these are mostly funds that invest. They're normal people. I have funds in BlackRock, and I have funds in all of these places. We invest in all of these companies.
The
And if you
globalists.
want to look at the majority of wars and conflicts going on in the world, look in Africa and what's going on. Look in Sudan and what's going on. Look at Syria and what's going on. What are these people? Look at Ukraine and Russia. What are these people talking about? Okay, go ahead,
Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I think it's something that's very pervasive. It's always been on the left, but now as the right has at least politically, has given up any semblance of defense of free markets, they're ready and willing to go along with the this kind of underlying trope that conflict in the world has nothing to do with ideas, is all to do with wealthy overseers behind companies. Shifting shifting pieces to their benefit. So it's an ugly smear on capitalism once again.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on this point too much, but do you think these people don't have like 401k and invested it in like S&P 500 in the same companies that are benefiting from these wars? Or again, like benefiting from these wars? Like again, if there was no war, it would mean more money would go into actual productive sectors of economy, like whatever, healthcare, develop more medicine if there was no war. So everybody would benefit if there was actually no war. Same companies who own these like war productive industries also own the healthcare companies, also own the service industry. So we would benefit much more if there was no war. Should we watch more?
Sure, let's get another.
That it does feel like I've spent 35 years not talking about that topic because, one, I don't really have on a native level like super strong views about it. It's not my country. I wish everyone well in every country, and I mean that. However, it just got so in my face that I had to like say 4 things about it, for which I've been spent the rest of my life trying to deal with that, the effects of being called those names. But I feel like all of a sudden, like people you would not expect to weigh in on this, like, actually, this is too much.
Yeah. And I love it. I'm glad that that's happening. And I hope
you feel that there's been a change.
I do feel it. I mean, definitely. If it were the Bush years and this whole scenario were playing out during those years, the kinds of things I've been hearing people say publicly, I would not have heard. But I think what's happening this time around is you really can't deny what you're seeing on the ground in Gaza. You can't deny what's happening in the West Bank.
Okay, so you might be asking why I included this part because they didn't say anything, and that was exactly why I included it. So this is what I have from what they said. I had to say things. It's too much. I do feel this whole scenario, kinds of things. They didn't say anything. Like, when it comes to sort of speaking about ideas, when it comes to sort of speaking about topics, ambiguity is a bad thing. You shouldn't be ambiguous. You should actually like say what you mean. But this whole 1 minute was basically, there is almost nothing to comment on because of this weird kind of, I don't know where it even comes from. I mean, to go to you, Jonathan, what, like talking about things as if, like it's almost, I cannot even talk about it because I don't know what she said.
Yeah, I mean, didn't really follow exactly that. She seemed to suggest that maybe she and others were part of, now the truth is being told. Before it was all, disguised, but because of the profit motive and big business and corporations. But, now thanks to, real patriots like Tucker and Anna, the truth is getting out, the unvarnished, the unfiltered truth. And, that we've always been told that, over and over again. And if I was looking for the truth, I certainly wouldn't start with these 2 individuals.
Yeah, and she said, like, you can't deny what's happening in Gaza or West Bank. And again, this shows like the perfect job Hamas has been done, because again, every single thing that's coming out of Gaza is going through Hamas. We do not have any information from there besides, or sort of the journalist information that's coming out of there besides what's coming out of Hamas. And she's completely eating that up. She's completely relying on that and using that to bash Israel. And again, this is not coming from some sort of ignorance. This is coming from actual malice of knowing what she's doing. Michael?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. She knows that we're seeing, When was the last time we saw anything about the October 7th massacres and some nice pictures that we can put up there? When was the last time we saw anybody on the media, I don't know if you guys saw this ridiculous kid that was supposed to be a victim of famine, who actually has a malabsorption syndrome. And he was evacuated out of Gaza, and he's being treated now in Italy. But he's being touted as the poster child for the famine that's going on in Israel. And nobody retracted all of that. And nobody said, yet again, I mean, it's gotten to the point where nothing is real. And even if it were one-sided, the one-sided is not even real. We all know that there are tons of Gaza actors that have been killed multiple times and reappear alive and then are killed again by the horrible Israelis just killing innocent civilians over and over. And it is exactly what you said. She is fully aware that there is no real press out of Gaza. There's no real press out of Iran. There's no press out of North Korea. We hear general comments about people dying of starvation in North Korea. We don't see anything because they're not allowed in. This is all just manufactured baloney, and it's patent lies. And there's no question these people are fully aware of it.
And what's interesting is, what did she say at the end there? Just look at the pictures coming out of Gaza. Just look at the pictures.
Yeah.
And Dr. Peikoff, who was Ayn Rand's intellectual heir, has that wonderful Ford Hall forum about how a picture is not an argument, and how showing any picture does not make an argument at all. It's perfectly appropriate in this case. And of course, she doesn't address the wider context of even why there is conflict right now in the Middle East. Why Israel is at war? That she doesn't acknowledge at all. She just says, look what Israel's doing. Terrible, big, bad Israel. QED.
And since you mentioned a picture is not an argument, people should become an Ayn Rand Center UK member. Every Sunday we do a discussion on a talk Leonard Peikoff gave, and we are currently going through photo forums, so a picture is not an argument. Will most likely be the next session, it looks like, so that's really appropriate. And just to mention one thing that I think I remember from this lecture is he had a discussion on abortion, and before the discussion, he was asked, okay, where are your pictures? The other side, they have their pictures of like little babies being aborted or how abortion looks. So where are your pictures to basically present? And I'm not sure if he like canceled the debate because he was not going to engage with it because it's so dishonest to basically just put out a bunch of pictures as if that makes an argument. Again, war is hell. You don't start one. Yeah, there are children will die during war. This is why you don't engage with it. But that's all on Hamas. That should all be on Hamas and Palestinians who not only started it, but still continue to engage with it. They are the ones who are not stopping it, not Israel for not defending itself. Let's listen a bit more.
Not just in regard to Palestinians, Palestinian Muslims, but also Palestinian Christians. You can't deny the fact that one and only Catholic church in Gaza was bombed, was attacked. You can't deny the fact that churches have been targeted in the West Bank as well. Like people can lie to us as much as they want, but the videos are out there.
How do you blow up a church if you've got munitions, laser-guided munitions that are so sophisticated that they can take out a guy in an SUV from 30,000 feet? How do you blow up a church with a giant cross on top of it?
It was just an accident, Tucker. It was an accident.
It's not the first church that's
No,
been blown
it's
up.
not. And it wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident.
But what is the answer? Can anyone get an answer?
I know the answer. Israel wants a Jewish state and they want to expand. They have something known as the Greater Israel Project. They intend to annex the whole of the West Bank. In fact, Miriam Adelson legally bribed Donald Trump to ensure that happens. And Israel announced that that's what they're going to do, and they're doing it.
Again, there's just so much to... I don't even... Jonathan, anything you can even take out of this that you want to cover before I even comment?
No, I mean, it's conspiracy theory, it's anti-Semitism, and it's old wine in new bottles, once again. Just I'm almost gobsmacked as to, the ease with which this young lady lets this BS trickle off her tongue. But it fills the void of what people who really hate the West, really who hate Jews need. It's just another excuse why, they're to be hated, shunned, or even worse.
Yeah, and again, this kind of like, oh, the only Catholic church in Gaza. Michael, any idea what happened to the synagogues that were in Gaza?
Well, first of all, it begs the question of why there's only one Catholic church in Gaza, and then anybody who's a total idiot would listen to him and say, well, yeah, if we can hit something from 30,000 feet with extreme accuracy, why can't every single munition that we have that costs $2 to $3 million a pop be used every single time? And then it completely ignores the fact is that terrorists are using every single internationally criminal place to put themselves in Gaza. Every single one, schools, churches, mosques, everything, to hide behind civilians and pretend that they're the good terrorists. And it's bad Israel that's targeting these illegal places, UN buildings, for example. And we all know, we've all seen those pictures, true, with the tunnels underneath all of these so-called peace-loving places, etc. And then, as we all know, bad stuff happens when you're in a chaos zone, and that's war. And Israel apologized for it. They hoped it didn't happen. Netanyahu even spoke with the Pope. I personally don't think Israel should be doing that kind of thing. I think it just feeds into this whole ridiculousness because it pretends that the entire problem didn't start with Hamas and could end tomorrow with Hamas. But Israel seems hell-bent, and it feeds this stupid narrative that the notion in the world is that, well, we beat up Gaza enough, and it's okay to leave a bunch of terrorists who've said we want to destroy Israel, and we want to continue to destroy Israel. We're going to leave them in place because we want to have people on our border that have pledged to annihilate us. That's what they want us to do, us Israel. And again, Carlson knows this, and Anna knows this.
Yeah, and you mentioned sort of the fact that again, the fact that Israel has the capability is used against it. Every time. The fact that Israel has for example, the Iron Dome means it cannot defend itself because not enough Jews died because it has an Iron Dome.
Exactly.
Because Israel has a precise munition that they can target things, well, now they need to do it all the time. Again, Israel has no obligations towards Palestinians. We are not talking about some policing event where if police do, beat up some people without a probable cause that we say it's okay because things happen. No, that they have a certain responsibility towards their citizens and proper sort of waging of that. But when it comes to engaging in the war, that enemy population doesn't care. They've said they want to kill every single Jew. That's what starting a war means, and every single Arab as well, because those were also taken on October 7 and would have been killed if Hamas got their way. So they want to wipe them out, and Israel should do whatever is necessary to end it as quickly as possible. And if it means, mistakes happen, as in, sometimes you, and again, what is even mistake? It's sort of like you were trying to do something and it didn't go the way you planned. And there is a certain amount, at some point you could say it's negligence, but even then, the bad part of it is we've wasted ammunition on something that didn't give us a strategic goal, not that it happened. Again, if you don't want these things to happen, you don't start a war. Should we watch one more?
Yeah, one more.
When it comes to Gaza, I mean, Hamas is so dumb because the atrocities they committed on October 7th gave Netanyahu and the Israeli government the perfect excuse to essentially do what they've always wanted to do, which is take that land. They're going to take that land. That's what they want. They're going to ethnically cleanse whatever remains of the Palestinian people. They're going to force neighboring countries probably to absorb 2 million people. And then at the same time, they're going to have settlers move on in, rebuild Gaza.
this is like anti-Semitism. Like there is no other way to call it. Like these like scheming Jews of, okay, here is the plan. We'll found the country in 47. We'll declare independence and then found it in 48, and then we'll have the Arabs attack us because we found the country. We are planning that. Basically, we are controlling the Arabs to attack us so we can defend ourselves. We'll establish itself. Then we'll have Arabs threaten us again so we can expand again. Then we'll give back Sinai because we don't want to expand. Then we'll give back Gaza, and then we'll give back parts of West Bank so we can go back in 20 years and take it again. Like what else? Like Jonathan, what?
I think she plays in just to, the average 20, 30 or 40 something American, just enough information, doesn't know, don't bother me with all the details. I just know it's those scheming Jews once again, working their international cabal of moneyed interests, to push society their way, or to use America to, have it Israel's way. So I think it's just like kind of ring that bell of that old trope of, the Jews controlling the whole thing. But Dan, the notion that they would have somehow, wanted the attack or provoked the attack or looked for the attack or been happy about the attack. I mean, when you realize how small Israel is and how literally everyone seems to know someone else one or two, dimensions removed, how tight and small of a country that is, it's such an outrage to even suggest that for a minute that Israel would have wanted and brought to bring on that horrific attack.
Yeah, and I'll go to you, Michael, but sort of two quick points. Well, first, Razi is in the chat. He says, whatever is left of the Palestinian people is more people than there were there on October 7th, which, from what we understand, is true. There's actually more Palestinians in Gaza there now than there was back in October 7th. And also, the way she said, Hamas gave Israel an excuse to go in. Just like a robber gives an excuse to policemen to arrest him, just like a murderer gives an excuse to judge to convict him and send him to jail. Yeah, when you do certain things, things get happen to you. Hamas started a war, so Israel responded in kind. This is usually what happens. Michael?
Well, it also, and behind all of this is this notion that somehow there are many Jewish states and we're going to displace all these people we're going to displace all these Palestinians, these Arabs, to how many Arab countries are there? How many Muslim countries are there? There's one Jewish state. And there are multiple Muslim countries that have it in their charter to annihilate that one Jewish state. And obviously, Daniel, the comments, like you said, this is written for people that have no ability to think, which our sense is, and maybe it's just social media amplifying it, our sense is that there's a growing number of those people. And we also know that our colleges are teaching terrible, terrible things, really inconsistent with even the existence of the colleges, because most of what colleges teach today are actually incompatible with the so-called liberal mindset that the colleges espouse, many of which are not that liberal. But you get what my point is. None of these colleges would exist in any form in any of the theocratic or autocratic countries, of course. And it just gives people enough fodder to believe that, yeah, that's what Hamas did. And I love the notion that Israel gave up Gaza, and there are plenty of good pictures, just to be a little ironic about pictures, of Israeli defense forces removing Israelis who actually lived in Gaza when it was under Israel's control, forcibly removing them from their home sites and extracting them out of Gaza in order to give Gaza back, and it wasn't even back, in order to give Gaza to the Palestinians. And what did the Palestinians do? They came in, they destroyed essentially all of the greenhouses and all of the infrastructure that existed there in order to make sure that they started with nothing. Because you would never take any handout from a Jew. And even if you have to live in destitution and death, that's better than acknowledging that the Israelis created anything. But the whole story is absolutely absurd. It's like a parallel universe that doesn't exist here on Earth.
Yeah, and just to mention one more thing about sort of like Gaza and the departure of Jews, because Anatol goes on about how, the one Catholic church in Gaza got destroyed. Well, first, when Israel was talking about getting out of Gaza, they considered destroying the synagogues before doing so. They ended up not doing so, and those synagogues were still completely destroyed and trashed by the Palestinian mob. And at this point, I think maybe only one synagogue is actually standing, but maybe even that one is not, because all of them were destroyed. So yeah, she cares about sort of houses of worship, but maybe only
Not Jewish
certain
ones.
kind. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's watch a bit more.
Jared Kushner, by the way, soon after October 7th happened, was like salivating on camera about how that's prime real estate. It's disgusting. But anyway,
how can you move 2 million people right now?
Well, there was a story.
Actually, we're gonna move ahead about a minute because they don't really talk about anything interesting here, and there's a couple points I want to cover a bit later. So, yeah, let's watch a bit more.
And they're currently doing a ground invasion there. They got to destroy it, of course. I mean, it's so obvious what's happening, and it's so unjust. And this is the area where, what democracy? I have no power. The government's going to take part of my earnings that I worked really hard for, not to help my fellow American citizens who might need health care, who might have fallen on hard times and can't feed their families and need help with food assistance. It's not going to go to them. It's going to go toward the bombs that are terrible.
Okay, this is really funny because I want to ask a question for you, Michael. Who do you think, what is I forgot her name. Anna Kasparian, I forgot her name for a second. Who do you think she voted for in the last election?
Of course she voted for Kamala.
No, she didn't vote. She is complaining about democracy. She's complaining about what Trump is doing, and she didn't vote. This is the ridiculousness of like these progressives, is they go on and on about sort of the democracy is not working, and then she's not voting. I mean, yeah. I don't know how much you guys have to say on this, but I found this like incredibly, I don't know, ironic or like really stupid. The fact that these people go on to say about how democracy is not working, about how American people are not getting what they deserve, and then they don't vote.
Yeah, what's interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I mean, let's just statistically, most progressives voted for Harris. And let's be very clear that Harris's proposal is that every illegal immigrant in this country get free housing and health care. And it's well documented that illegal immigrants in America received more support per person than nearly everyone on the unemployment rolls. The amount of money that was spent to house illegal immigrants and to pay for health care and to give them food stamps and to give them credit cards was way more money than was given to American citizens who were in a similar difficult situation or destitute even situation. So I understand that it's absurd. I agree with you. Of course, it's absurd that you complain about democracy when you didn't even participate. But let's be clear that the progressive mindset is that everybody except the citizens who foot the bill should be recipients of our hard-earned tax dollars. She's completely full of it, completely and entirely full of it.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, the irony is she says what I heard her say is that it's unjust that her tax money isn't going to help her fellow Americans in need. To which I would say, well, why don't you help them? You know, I mean, go help them. If you see people in need, go help them. But the point of government is the monopoly of the use of force. You know, I can't get a bomb, a B-2 bomb or a F-16 or a military. We can't have that as individuals. We can't have it even as groups. That is the role of government. Their role is bombs. And, you know, Dr. Brooke has always talked about, not small government, but the right type of government, one that's designed to protect individual rights. So I'm very happy that my tax dollars goes to purchase weapons for the army and weapon systems for the military. I mean, that's their role, to keep me safe. And if I want to be charitable towards another group or another individual, that's what Anna should be doing.
Yeah, and I mean, the main reason why I sort of like wanting to mention is I've increasingly seen this like weird thing when it comes to progressives that that they don't vote. I don't know how much you guys have to say on that, but I've seen this sort of like, again, when you think of like somebody like Kamala Harris, she was like the most progressive in the primary in 2020. She was like the most progressive candidate. She was, in many cases, she was like more progressive than Bernie Sanders. And like that person is somehow like not good enough for Anna Kasparian. I don't know what to really make. It's just this like really weird scenario. And then they go on to basically talk about sort of like how government is like not responsive to its people when they don't vote. It's just really weird like mentality that I don't know what to do with. But yeah, let's watch a bit more.
In Gaza, the West Bank. By the way, it's going to expand further than that. I mean, they've already annexed part of Syria. The Syria war, that proxy war, was a proxy war for a reason. Turkey wanted to have influence and control over the area where the Kurds are at. Obviously, Israel wanted to annex portions of it, and they've been doing it ever since Assad fell. And you have a former al-Qaeda leader as the current leader of Syria, who's trying to capitulate to Israel, but obviously it's not good enough because Israel's still bombing the crap out of Syria. It's unbelievable. I have no ability to change it. It seems like the electorate in this country have no ability to change it because it doesn't matter which party you vote for, whether it's a Democratic presidential candidate or a Republican presidential candidate, they're going to get elected and they're going to get dog-walked by whoever the prime minister.
Okay, I wanted to keep that for a bit later part. This is like, I don't know how much she even knows about like the conflict that's going on right now, because she said Israel has recently annexed sort of parts of Syria. You mean like back in 1981, where they formally annexed like Golan Heights? Or like, what are you even talking about? Israel did occupy a bit more of Syrian land after the fall of Assad, but that's not annexing. Like, is she just lying, or is she actually like stupid? I'm sorry to say, but like stupid and doesn't know what she's talking about, which does increasingly seem likely. Jonathan?
Well, I'll answer that. Actually, Bonnie, who is one of our YouTube members, and we bring you a show or more 7 days a week here on Ayn Rand Center UK, and we can only do it through people like Bonnie, who is a YouTube member. Bonnie points out how that the so-called annexing was to destroy weapons that would fall to jihad. So it was context dropping on Anna's part, very astutely pointed out by Bonnie. And thank you again for your support.
Well, yeah, Israel was bombing Syria again to destroy the weapons, so they wouldn't go to Al Qaeda, as she have said. So again, this is like at this point she might just actually don't know, but most likely she knows what's going on and she's actively lying. And again, she said the line, the American electorate doesn't have a, it seems like it doesn't have a way to change it. Yeah, if you don't go to the ballot boxes, yeah, it's probably not going to change. Michael?
Well, I would, again, I like to take a step back. She acts like Syria is some legitimate country that's a well-functioning equivalent country to an Israel or a US. That's point number one. Syria is not a country. Syria is a giant civil war that is it is a total disaster. Never mind the fact that they're killing Druze right and left, which she's well aware of, and that it is the pipeline from Iran in sending weapons into Hezbollah and Lebanon. Syria is not a real country. And yes, it is being run currently by a former Al-Qaeda member. And obviously the leopard doesn't change their spots. And I'm sure she has a number of really good candidates who would do well to replace this gentleman who is currently, quote, running Syria. Obviously she doesn't. Bemoaning the fact that there are countries that are complete disasters and failed states would be really helpful on her part. But no, when there's moral equivalence of everybody, you can have a country that functions and contributes to the world, like the US and Israel, or you can have a country that is a terrorist stronghold with a bunch of tribes that are still fighting about 1,000-year-old issues, living in hovels, and the only technology they have has been stolen from the West or taken from the West, and in some cases paid for and traded from the West, granted. That's her position. Syria is not a real country. It is going through a terrible transition. Assad was not a good guy. Learn some history. These are evil people who have done nothing but destroy their countries and ruin the lives of most of their citizens.
Yeah, and this is not even the case of like learn some history. Read news from like 8 months ago, where and she is supposed to be like she's doing exactly the same type of show we are doing. She's not doing original reporting. She's simply commenting on the news. She should know what's going on, and she does know. She's lying.
She does know.
Let's listen a bit more. We have only about a minute left, so we might be able to finish all of it.
Doesn't matter which party you vote for, whether it's a Democratic presidential candidate or a Republican presidential candidate, they're going to get elected and they're going to get dog walked by whoever the prime minister of Israel is at the time.
How do we wind up supporting an Al-Qaeda leader? I thought we were anti-Al-Qaeda.
I thought so too. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. But I mean, this is seen throughout American history in regard to our foreign policy. I mean, we will fund the Taliban, we'll give them weapons to fight, the communists. We want to avoid communism. And then we turn on them, for obvious reasons after what happened on 9/11. But I mean, I think it's not.
Well, we were told 9/11 was done by Al-Qaeda. So we've got to be pretty, I mean, that wasn't that long ago. We've got to be pretty anti-Al-Qaeda because like if they actually killed 3,000 Americans on 9/11, which everyone says they did, and I'm willing to believe that, then how in the world could we let any Al-Qaeda even exist?
So there's a couple of things that I didn't know. Tucker Carlson is a truther. We were told this was done by Al-Qaeda. If we are to believe 3,000 Americans died on 9/11, like this is actual, like this is actual like 9/11 like truthism. But sort of like separately, I'll just bring up everything they said. Well, first, the sort of the anti-Semitic trope of Netanyahu is dog walking Trump. Again, Israel and America have a good reason to be allied and have the same enemies and have the same values, which is, I think, much more important than having the same enemies. This is why their policy is oftentimes aligned. And then she also said, "Oh, we wanted to avoid communism," and she said it in sort of like scare quotes. What do you mean? I mean, maybe we don't have to fight communism every time we see it around the world, but communism is bad, Anna. You know that, right? That communism is not a good thing.
Oh. Yeah, that's the way we're told.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, any comments on any of this? The 9/11 truthism, the anti-Semitic trope, anything you'd like to comment on?
No, I mean, these people live in la la land. It's like we should never have an Al-Qaeda person in charge. You're right, we shouldn't. So let's go find 5 democratic, well-educated people who want to implement democracy in Syria. And let's put them in, because we can always install those people and then we get great outcomes and it works out beautifully. Well, I mean, what reality are these people living in? And the answer is they're not living in anything. I think the other thing is to expect a progressive to say that communism is bad that's not fair. A progressive believes that communism is good because the progressives can point to many places in the world where communism has been very effective. It led to the deaths of millions, tens of millions of people in Russia. It leads to a massive suppression of people in China. But these people, Cuba is still living in, and their excuse is, of course, none of this was real communism. Real communism is very effective and leads to a good life for everybody. And of course, the truth is that real communism leads to essentially equal misery amongst everyone, as opposed to most of the population having most of its needs met nearly all of the time, which is what capitalism has done. And by the way, capitalism has, and should be unapologetic, has provided more life-affirming and life-prolonging years to more people in the history of humanity than anything else by far. By far, full stop. It's not even, and it is the old quip that it's so obvious that only an intellectual would disagree. And she puts herself as an intellectual. And Tucker Carlson, who's really, I actually think suffers from some kind of brain disease. I'm not kidding. I mean, I think he should be on medicine, and I'm speaking now as a primary care internal medicine doctor. You know, this notion, if it's to be believed that 3,000 Americans were killed, if it's to be believed that, I mean, what are we talking about here? Of course, he also likes to deny that really 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust and that 18 or 20 million people overall were murdered by the Germans in one form or another throughout World War II. With total, I think, 50 million deaths in World War II or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of like one more comment on the communism. Again, this is another way how people like her win, is basically by not defying things. Because what they mean by communism is when good things happen. So when good things happen, it's communism. And since good things didn't happen, it wasn't real communism. Jonathan, right. Any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Well, just briefly on this notion of history, you know, my understanding is that Ayn Rand studied history, and that she felt it important to have a very thorough knowledge of history. So certainly Tucker and Anna and so many other commentators need that as well. And there's a lot of great objectivist resources to take advantage of to learn some of that history, one of which is a new textbook of Americanism. It's available at Amazon. It's less than $20 and is Miss Rand's perspective all about this great country, the USA.
Michael, any last thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, look, I think it mostly comes back to trying to just think through things. Do things make sense? When you hear stuff from people and you put A and B together, does it stand up to reason? And having your own brain and thinking through stuff is really at the foundation of any democracy and any progress that humanity can. You have to be able to think through things. And 1 + 1 is always 2. As Ayn Rand said it, you know, A equals A. And no matter how you feel about things, reality always wins. Jeff Bezos said it beautifully. Reality remains undefeated. Michael Kaufman, 2 Fs on LinkedIn.
And I should remind people this episode of the reality show was sponsored by The Objectivist Guide to the Galaxy. You can check out the book on Amazon. Link is in the chat and in the description. And I think I had a line I wanted to say, but I cannot remember. So with that, thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Daily Objective and the reality show. Until then, bye-bye.